If my son had shown up for dinner, he would have received a $20 million trust fund. Instead, he went to a party. Watch his reaction when I hand him the receipt showing I donated his entire inheritance to the maids who clean my hotels. There is a specific kind of pity that waiters reserve for elderly women eating alone in romantic restaurants. I saw it in the eyes of the young man serving table 4 at Le Bouchon. He was a good waiter, efficient, with a crisp white apron and a manner that suggested he took his job seriously. He had filled my water glass 3 times in the last hour. He had brought me a basket of warm bread, which I had not touched, and every time he walked past, he glanced at the 3 empty chairs across from me with a mixture of sympathy and impatience. He thought I was being stood up. He was right. He thought I was sad about it. He was wrong. I checked my watch. It was a Timex with a leather strap that I had bought at a drugstore in 1998. It cost $24 then, and it kept time better than the digital monstrosities my son, Kevin, insisted were the future of wristwear. It was 7:45 in the evening. My reservation had been for 7 o'clock. I smoothed the napkin across my lap. I was wearing my beige cardigan, the one with the small moth hole near the cuff that I had darned myself with matching thread. I was wearing comfortable shoes. To anyone looking at me, I was Diana Price, the retired motel clerk who lived in a 2-bedroom condo in Bucktown, clipped coupons for cat food, and drove a 2012 Honda Civic with a dent in the rear bumper. That was the Diana Price my son knew. That was the Diana Price he treated with a mixture of condescending affection and outright dismissal. Kevin was 40 years old. He called himself a serial entrepreneur. In the last decade, that title had encompassed a failed drop-shipping business for fidget spinners, a cryptocurrency consulting firm that lost its only client's savings, and now an AI marketing startup that, as far as I could tell, consisted of a website filled with buzzwords and an office he couldn't afford to rent. He lived his life chasing the appearance of wealth. He leased a loft in the West Loop that cost 3 times his monthly income. He drove a Tesla that he complained about constantly but refused to trade in. He and his wife, Ashley, spent their weekends posting photos of brunch on Instagram, carefully cropping out the credit card receipts they were struggling to pay. I sat there, listening to the hum of conversation around me. Le Bouchon is a small, intimate place. It smells of garlic, butter, and red wine, the smell of things that take time to create. I had chosen it for my 70th birthday because it was authentic. Kevin hated authentic. Kevin liked vibes. I looked at the empty chair where Kevin should have been. I looked at the empty chair where Ashley should have been. And I looked at the 3rd empty chair, which was technically for my purse, but which Kevin had insisted we reserve in case he brought a potential investor. He was always bringing potential investors. He treated every family gathering as a pitch meeting. He looked at me, his own mother, and saw only a wasted resource, a woman who had worked for 40 years, checking guests into a motel, and had nothing to show for it but a pension and a paid-off condo. "Mom," he had told me last week, "you have a scarcity mindset. You save everything. You need to leverage your assets. Even a small pension can be leveraged if you understand the crypto markets." I had smiled and offered him a cookie. I didn't tell him that I understood leverage better than he ever would. I didn't tell him that the motel he thought I worked at was actually the first property in a portfolio of 42 luxury boutique hotels spanning the Midwest. I didn't tell him that I wasn't the clerk. I was the owner. I picked up my phone. It was an older model, another point of contention for Kevin. I dialed his number. It rang 4 times. Then it went to voicemail. I hung up. I waited 1 minute. I dialed again. This time, he answered. The background noise was deafening, loud bass music, the roar of a crowd, the clinking of glasses. "Mom?" he shouted. "I can't hear you." It's crazy in here. Kevin, I said, keeping my voice level. It is 7:50. We have a reservation. Oh, shoot! He yelled. Is that tonight? Mom, I am so sorry. Listen, something huge came up. Massive. I'm at the Tech Nexus Mixer at the convention center. I ran into a guy who knows a guy at Sequoia Capital. This is it, Mom. This is the unicorn opportunity. It is my 70th birthday, Kevin. I said. I know. And happy birthday. Seriously. But you understand, right? You always told me to work hard. I'm hustling, Mom. I'm doing this for the family. If I land this seed funding, I can buy you that new car you need. We can get you out of that death trap Civic. My Civic was perfectly safe. It had new tires. So you are not coming? I asked. I can't leave now, he said, sounding exasperated. As if I were the one being unreasonable. Look, Ashley is here working the room with me. She says happy birthday too. Listen, why don't we do a redo next week? We can go somewhere. Simpler. You know Le Bouchon is a little heavy, right? All that cream. Let's do Red Lobster. They have those biscuits you like. It's more your speed anyway. More my speed. Red Lobster. He thought my palate was limited to chain restaurants because he thought my wallet was limited to chain restaurants. He didn't know that the chef at Le Bouchon greeted me by name when I came in alone because I had been a silent investor in his first venture 10 years ago. Red Lobster would be fine, Kevin, I said. Great. You're the best, Mom. Gotta go. This guy is looking at me. Love you. The line went dead. I lowered the phone. I looked at the empty chairs. He didn't just forget. He chose. He chose a room full of strangers who didn't care about him over the woman who raised him. He chose the illusion of success over the reality of family. If you have someone in your life who only calls you when they need something, but is too busy when you need them, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. Let's remind them that the people they ignore are often the ones holding the keys to the castle. The waiter approached, looking anxious. Madame, is your party arriving soon? The kitchen. They are wondering about the order. My party is not coming, Jean-Pierre, I said. He winced. I'm so sorry, madame. Shall I clear the places? Please, I said. And bring me the onion soup. And the duck? And a glass of the 1996 Bordeaux. He blinked. The 1996 Bordeaux was $300 a glass. He looked at my cardigan. He looked at my watch. Madame, that is. It is a very expensive vintage. I know, I said. I am celebrating. He hesitated, then nodded. Of course. Right away. He cleared the plates. He took away the extra wine glasses. He left me alone at the table for 4. I ate my dinner. The soup was excellent, rich and deep. The duck was crisp. The wine tasted like history, dark fruits, and old earth. I enjoyed it. I really did. There is a freedom in being underestimated. It allows you to move through the world without being targeted. Kevin thought I was weak. He thought I was a simple woman who needed his guidance to navigate the modern world. He sent me articles about financial literacy and how to budget on a fixed income. He didn't realize that the fixed income I lived on was a choice, not a limit. I finished my meal. I asked for the check. Jean-Pierre brought it. He had removed the price of the extra covers, trying to be kind. I pulled out my credit card. It was a black titanium card issued by a private bank in Switzerland. It had no limit. It was heavy. When I placed it on the tray, Jean-Pierre's eyebrows shot up. He looked at the card, then at me. Happy birthday, madame, he whispered as he took it. Thank you, Jean-Pierre. I tipped him 200%. I signed the receipt with my steady, practiced hand. Diana Price. I walked out into the Chicago night. The air was cool, smelling of damp pavement and exhaust. My Honda Civic was parked around the corner, squeezed between a dumpster and a fire hydrant because I refused to pay $40 for the valet. I got in. The engine started with a reliable hum. I drove home, navigating the potholes of Milwaukee Avenue with the muscle memory of a woman who had driven these streets for 50 years. My condo was in a brick two-flat in Bucktown. It was nice, but not ostentatious. I had bought the whole building in 1990, but I lived in the top unit and rented the bottom one to a young teacher for below market rate because I liked having quiet neighbors. I unlocked the door. My cat, Barnaby, greeted me with a chirp. "Hello, old man," I said, bending down to scratch his ears. "Did you forget my birthday too?" he purred. At least, someone was reliable. I hung up my cardigan. I walked into the kitchen. I made myself a cup of herbal tea. Then, I sat down at my kitchen table. It was a simple wooden table, covered in a vinyl tablecloth. On it sat my laptop. It was not a sleek MacBook like Kevin used. It was a heavy, durable ThinkPad. I opened it. The screen glowed blue in the dark kitchen. I logged into my secure email server. Two-factor authentication. Retinal scan via the webcam. My inbox was full. Subject: final offer. Project Keystone. From Sterling and Associates. Time: 7:55 p.m. I clicked on it. Attached was a PDF. 300 pages. Merger agreement by and between Hearthstone Hospitality Group, seller, and Omni Global Resorts. Buyer. Purchase price: $100 million. I scrolled through the document. I didn't need to read it all. I had written most of it. I knew every clause, every contingency, every employee protection provision I had fought for. I started this company in 1985. I was 30 years old, a widow with a young son, and a small life insurance payout. I bought a run-down motel off I-90 that smelled of cigarettes and desperation. I scrubbed every toilet myself. I worked the front desk for 18 hours a day. I learned how to fix the plumbing because I couldn't afford a plumber. I turned that motel into a clean, safe stopover. Then I bought another. Then I bought a historic inn in Galena. Then a boutique hotel in downtown Chicago. I created Hearthstone Hospitality, but I never put my face on the brochures. I used holding companies. D.P. Holdings. Bluebird Ventures. I kept my name off the door. I wanted to see if the business could stand on its own, and I wanted to see if my son would love me without the money. I looked at the document. $100 million. Cash. This was the exit. I was 70. I was tired. I wanted to read books. I wanted to travel without checking occupancy rates. I had planned this day for months. Today, on my 70th birthday, I was going to sign the deal. And tonight, at dinner, I was going to tell Kevin I had created a trust document for him. I opened the file on my desktop labeled Kevin, Trust, Draft, PDF. I had worked on it with Mr. Sterling for weeks. It was generous. $20 million. Enough to fund every bad idea he ever had. Enough to ensure he never had to hustle again. Enough to buy the respect he so desperately craved from strangers. I looked at the screen. Beneficiary: Kevin Price. Amount: $20 million. I thought about the empty chair at the restaurant. I thought about his voice on the phone. Red Lobster is more your speed. He didn't see me. He didn't know me. And worst of all, he didn't care to know me. He only cared about the version of me that fit into his narrative, the poor mother he had to tolerate. If I gave him this money, I wouldn't be saving him. I would be confirming his worldview. I would be proving that he didn't need to work, or care, or show up, because eventually the universe would just hand him a check. I took a sip of tea. I moved the mouse. I highlighted the file, Kevin, Trust, Draft, PDF. I right-clicked. Delete. Are you sure you want to move this item to the recycle bin? Yes, I said to the empty room. Click. I emptied the recycle bin. Then I went back to the merger agreement. I scrolled to the signature page. I used my digital key to sign. Diana Price, CEO. It was done. Tomorrow morning, the press release would go out. Tomorrow morning, the world would know that the retired motel clerk was one of the wealthiest self-made women in Chicago. And tomorrow morning, Kevin would find out exactly what his networking event had cost him. I closed the laptop. I picked up Barnaby. Let's go to bed, I said. We have a big day tomorrow. I slept soundly. I usually do. A clear conscience is the best pillow, even if it is on a bed in a condo that my son thinks is a dump. Sunlight hit the West Loop loft like a physical blow. Kevin Price groaned, rolling over in his leased bed with sheets that had a thread count higher than his credit score. His head throbbed, the specific, dull ache of cheap champagne consumed at a networking mixer where the only things mixed were desperation and bottom-shelf vodka. He fumbled for his phone on the nightstand. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. Ugh, he muttered. Ashley. Ash. We overslept. I was supposed to call that guy from the crypto exchange at 10. Ashley didn't move. She was buried under a pile of pillows, muttering something about the brightness of the sun. Kevin sat up. He rubbed his face. Last night had been a bust. The guy from Sequoia Capital turned out to be an intern getting coffee. The unicorn opportunity was a pitch for a dog walking app that accepted Dogecoin. He had wasted 4 hours and $200 on Uber rides, and he had missed his mother's birthday dinner. A twinge of guilt pricked him. But he pushed it down. She understands, he told himself. Mom gets it. She knows I'm building something. Red Lobster will be fine. She loves those biscuits. He unlocked his phone. He had 17 notifications. Most were spam emails or alerts from his bank about a low balance. But one notification stood out. It was from his Crane's Chicago business app. He subscribed to it to look successful, though he rarely read past the headlines. The push notification read, "Breaking, the Iron Lady exits. Chicago Hospitality icon sells majority stake for record sum." Hospitality, Kevin murmured, scratching his chest. Boring! Unless it's tech-enabled hospitality. It's dead. He was about to swipe it away, but his thumb hovered. The subheadline caught his eye. Founder Diana Price closes deal with Omni Global for $100 million. Kevin froze. He stared at the screen. The letters seemed to swim. Diana Price? No, he whispered. He laughed, a dry, incredulous sound. That's funny. Same name as Mom. He tapped the article. The page loaded slowly on the loft's spotty Wi-Fi. The Iron Lady exits. Diana Price of Hearthstone Hospitality sells majority stake for $100 million. By Sarah Miller, Senior Business Correspondent. Chicago, IL. The woman known in the industry as the Ghost of Hospitality has finally stepped into the light. Diana Price, the reclusive founder of the Hearthstone Hospitality Group, announced today that she is selling her portfolio of 42 boutique hotels to Omni Global Resorts. Kevin read the first paragraph. He blinked. Diana Price, reclusive founder. Ash, he said. His voice was trembling. Ash, wake up. What? Ashley groaned, sitting up. Is it the landlord? Tell him the check is in the mail. No, Kevin said. There's a billionaire hotel owner with Mom's name. He kept reading aloud. Price, who started the company in 1985, with a single roadside motel off I-90. Kevin stopped. Mom worked at a motel off I-90 in 1985. She was a clerk. Ashley rubbed her eyes. So? Lots of people worked at motels in the 80s, Kevin. It was the era of road trips. Kevin scrolled down frantically. Known for her extreme privacy, Price managed the empire from her modest two-flat in the Bucktown neighborhood. Kevin's mouth went dry. Mom lives in a two-flat in Bucktown. Ashley stopped moving. She looked at him. Kevin, that's a coincidence. Bucktown is trendy now. Lots of people live there. Kevin scrolled further. He needed proof. He needed to see a face. There was no photo in the main article, but there was a link. Click here for a retrospective on Price's career. He clicked it. A gallery loaded. The first photo was grainy, black and white. It showed a young woman standing in front of a sign that said, "The Hearthstone Inn." She was holding a broom. She looked tired but determined. "That's Mom," Kevin whispered. "That's her cardigan." "I remember that cardigan." He swiped to the next photo. It was more recent. It showed Diana standing on a construction site, wearing a hard hat, pointing at a blueprint. She looked commanding. She looked powerful. He swiped again. This one was dated last year. It was Diana standing next to the mayor of Chicago at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. She was wearing a suit Kevin had never seen, but the face was undeniable. It was the same face that had looked at him across the kitchen table last week when he asked for $20 for gas. "It's her," Kevin said. The phone slipped from his hand and hit the duvet. "It's actually her. She's not the clerk, she's the owner." Ashley snatched the phone. She read the headline. She looked at the number. $100 million. "Oh my God," Ashley gasped. "Oh my God, Kevin. Your mother is rich. Like, succession rich. She owns Hearthstone." Kevin stood up. He started pacing the loft, tripping over his own jeans. "I stayed at a Hearthstone in Milwaukee once. It was $400 a night. I told her about it. I told her, 'Mom, you should see this place. It's real luxury, not like the dump you work at.' And she just smiled. She just sat there and drank her tea and smiled. She played us," Ashley whispered. Her eyes were wide, calculating. "She tested us. Kevin, the dinner." The blood drained from Kevin's face. "The dinner," he croaked. "Last night, her 70th birthday. We skipped it," Ashley said. "We skipped a $100 million birthday dinner to go to a mixer with a guy named Crypto Chad. I texted her," Kevin said, grabbing his hair. "I told her Red Lobster was more her speed." Red Lobster. "I told a centimillionaire to go eat Cheddar Bay biscuits because I thought she was poor." He looked at Ashley. The horror in the room was palpable. They weren't just bad children. They were idiots. They had spent years condescending to the very person who could have solved every single one of their problems. "Fix it," Ashley snapped. She jumped out of bed. "Kevin, fix it right now. Text her. Call her. Go over there. What do I say?" Kevin panicked. "Sorry I missed the dinner. Can I have $1 million? "No!" Ashley yelled. "Pivot. Tell her you're proud. Tell her you knew all along. Tell her we want to celebrate. Do not mention the money directly. Make it about family and legacy." Kevin grabbed his phone. His fingers were shaking so hard he could barely type. He opened his messages. The last text from last night sat there, like an accusation. "Gotta hustle. We will catch you next week," he typed. "Mom! Oh my God! I just opened the news. I am literally crying tears of joy right now. The Iron Lady. I always knew you were a genius, but this is incredible. I am so proud of you." He paused. He needed to sell it. I feel terrible about last night. I was just so stressed trying to make something of myself, trying to follow in your footsteps, even though I didn't know how big those footsteps were. Let's do a redo dinner tonight? My treat. I have so many ideas for the family office. We need to protect this legacy. Love you so much. He hit send. He watched the screen. Delivered. He waited for the 3 dots. The typing bubble. Nothing. Is she answering? Ashley asked. She was already pulling on clothes, a designer dress she had planned to return after wearing it once. We need to go over there. We can't wait for a text. We need FaceTime. She's probably swamped, Kevin said. If this news just broke, she's probably dealing with lawyers. Press. Exactly, Ashley said. She needs protection. She needs family. She needs us to help her manage the transition. Kevin, think about the management fees on $100 million. Think about the seed capital. Your AI startup? You could be the R&D arm of Hearthstone. Kevin's eyes lit up. Synergy, he breathed. Vertical integration. I can modernize her whole tech stack. Get dressed, Ashley ordered. Wear the suit. The navy one. Look successful. They dressed in 5 minutes flat. They ran out of the loft, bypassing the elevator because it was too slow, and sprinted to the Tesla. Kevin drove like a maniac. He wove through traffic on the Kennedy Expressway, sweating through his shirt. What if she's mad? He asked. She's your mother, Ashley said soothingly. Mothers forgive. That's what they do. Just be charming. Remind her of when you were little. Cry if you have to. They pulled up to the brick 2 flat in Bucktown. Usually, the street was quiet. Today, there were 2 black SUVs parked in front of the fire hydrant where Diana usually squeezed her Honda Civic. She has security, Kevin said. It's already happening. He parked the Tesla in the alley illegally and they ran around to the front. The front door of the building was locked. Kevin buzzed the top unit. No answer. She's screening, Kevin said. Use your key, Ashley hissed. You still have the emergency key she gave you, right? Yeah. Kevin fumbled with his keychain. He found the simple brass key he hadn't used in years because he hated visiting. He jammed it into the lock. It turned. They ran up the stairs. The hallway smelled of old wood and the cat litter Diana used. It felt terrifyingly normal. Kevin reached the top landing. The door to the condo was open. Mom? Kevin called out, putting on his best excited son smile. Mom, it's us. We came to... He stopped. The condo was not the cozy, cluttered space he remembered. It was a hive of activity. There were cardboard boxes stacked everywhere, not moving boxes, bankers' boxes, legal files. 3 men in suits were standing in the living room. One was packing files into a box. Another was on the phone, speaking in low, rapid tones about wire transfers and escrow release. And sitting at the kitchen table, calm as a monk in a hurricane, was Diana. She wasn't wearing her cardigan. She was wearing a silk blouse and trousers. Her hair was blow-dried. She was typing on her heavy ThinkPad laptop. She looked up as Kevin and Ashley burst in. She didn't smile. She didn't stand up to hug them. She just looked at them over the top of her reading glasses. "Hello, Kevin," she said. Her voice was cool. "You are early. I didn't expect you until you needed rent money next week." Kevin froze. The excited son smile faltered. "Mom," he said, stepping over a box labeled Tax Returns 1990 to 2020. We saw the news. We rushed right over. Mom, why didn't you tell us?" "Tell you?" Diana asked. She closed the laptop. "Tell you that I was working? I tried, Kevin. Every time I tried to talk about my day, you told me I wouldn't understand your business. You told me I had a scarcity mindset. I was joking." Kevin laughed nervously. You know how I am. Just hustling. But this is amazing. 100 million? Mom, you're a tycoon. Ashley pushed forward. We are just so proud of you, Diana. Really? We were crying in the car. Were you? Diana asked. She looked at Ashley's designer dress. Or were you calculating? A tall man in a gray suit stepped forward. He had silver hair and the kind of posture that costs $500 an hour. Diana, the man said. Are these the liabilities? Kevin bristled. I'm her son, Kevin Price. And you are? Arthur Sterling, the man said. Diana's general counsel. Great, Kevin said, extending a hand that Sterling ignored. Mr. Sterling, good to meet you. Obviously, as family, we're going to be taking a lead role in the family office from here on out. Mom needs people she can trust. She has people she can trust, Sterling said. That is why I am here. Diana stood up. She walked around the table. Kevin, she said, sit down. Mom, we don't have time to sit, Kevin said, buzzing with energy. We need to strategize. The tax implications on a sale this size are huge. I have a buddy who does offshore crypto trusts. We can wash the capital gains through. Sit down, Diana said. It wasn't a request. It was the voice of a CEO who had fired people for incompetence. Kevin sat. He sat in the same chair he had sat in as a child when he was in trouble for breaking a window. Ashley stood behind him, her hand on his shoulder, her knuckles white. You want to talk about the money, Diana said. I want to help you manage it, Kevin corrected. We can keep it in the family. Build a dynasty. Price Ventures. I can run the fund. I have the vision, Mom. You have the capital. It's the perfect match. Diana looked at him. She looked at him with a deep, profound sadness. I built this business, she said quietly, by cleaning toilets, by changing sheets, by listening to guests when they were tired and angry. I built it by showing up. Every day. For 40 years. She picked up a white envelope from the table. You didn't show up for dinner, she said. Mom, that was one night, Kevin pleaded. I told you I was trying to make it big. You didn't show up for 10 years, Kevin, she said. You haven't asked me a single question about my life since you left college. You only call when you need something. You treat people like transactions. She slid the envelope across the table. I expected you would come today, she said. Once you saw the number. So, I prepared this for you. Kevin stared at the envelope. It was thick. His heart started to race. This is it, he thought. The trust, the seed money, the apology. He looked at Ashley. She nodded, her eyes greedy. Kevin reached out. His hands were trembling. He grabbed the envelope. Mom, he choked out. You didn't have to. But, thank you. We're going to do great things with this. We're going to make you proud. Open it, Diana said. Kevin tore open the flap. He reached inside. He pulled out a single sheet of paper. It wasn't a check. It was a receipt. Kevin stared at the paper. His brain, usually so quick to jump to conclusions that benefited him, stalled. He saw numbers. Lots of zeros. He saw the sum. $100 million. It's the transfer. It's the transfer, Kevin breathed, looking up at me with wide, wet eyes. You moved it. Is this a holding company? The Price Foundation? Mom, this is genius. A charitable shell to mitigate the capital gains tax before we distribute the dividends. I didn't think you knew how to do this. He looked at Ashley. She put it in a foundation. That means we can pay ourselves salaries as directors. It's tax-free income. Ashley grabbed his arm. Diana, that is so smart. Really. We would be honored to serve on the board. Kevin has so many ideas for philanthropic outreach. We could do galas, art endowments. I watched them. It was like watching vultures circle a carcass, arguing over which part was the tenderest, not realizing the animal was still alive and holding a shotgun. "Read the rest, Kevin," I said. Kevin looked back at the paper. "Wire transfer. Irrevocable gift. 501C. 3. Status pending." He stopped. "Irrevocable? It means it cannot be taken back, mister." Sterling clarified, his voice dry as dust. "It means the assets no longer belong to Diana Price. They belong to the public trust." Kevin looked at me. The color that had returned to his cheeks vanished again. You gave it away?" he asked. His voice cracked. "All of it?" "Not all of it," I said. "I kept $2 million for myself, enough to buy a small cottage in Galena and pay for my books and tea for the rest of my life." "But the rest? The sale proceeds?" "Yes, it is gone." "Gone where?" Ashley shrieked. "To who?" "To the people who actually earned it," I said. "The Price Foundation is a scholarship and housing fund for low-income hospitality workers. Housekeepers, bellhops, line cooks, the people who stand on their feet for 12 hours a day so people like you can sleep in fresh sheets and complain about the thread count." Kevin dropped the paper. It fluttered to the floor like a dead bird. "You're joking," he said. He looked around the room, waiting for the punchline. "Mom, tell me this is a lesson. Tell me you're teaching me about, I don't know, humility? Okay, I get it. I missed dinner. I'm sorry. I was a jerk. But you can't just burn $100 million to punish me. That's insane. That's financial suicide." "It is not suicide, Kevin. It is legacy." I stood up. I walked over to the window. I looked out at the alley where I knew he had illegally parked his Tesla. "You talk about legacy all the time," I said. "You talk about building an empire, but you don't know what an empire is made of. You think it's made of pitch decks and networking mixers." I turned back to him. "I built Hearthstone because I needed to survive. I didn't have seed capital. I had a bucket and a mop. I cleaned vomit out of carpets at 3 in the morning. I fixed toilets with my bare hands. I checked in guests who looked at me like I was furniture." I took a step closer to him. "And do you know what I learned? I learned that money is not a vibe. Money is stored energy. It is the result of labor, and I will not take the labor of 4,000 employees and use it to fund your lifestyle of pretending to be important." Kevin's face twisted. The shock was turning into rage. The entitlement that had curdled inside him for 40 years was finally boiling over. "You owe me!" he shouted. "I am your son. You neglected me. You were always working at that damn motel. I grew up lonely so you could build this. And now you give it to strangers? To maids? I was working to put food on your table," I snapped. My voice rose. Just once. "I paid for your college. I paid for your weddings. I paid for the bail when you got that DUI in college. I have supported you your entire life, Kevin. And how did you repay me?" I pointed to the empty table. "You left me sitting alone in a restaurant on my 70th birthday because you thought I was poor. You thought I had nothing to offer you. You valued me exactly as much as you thought my bank account was worth." Kevin opened his mouth, but nothing came out. There is nothing uglier than a person who realizes their greed has cost them everything. If you are sick of entitled people who think family obligation only goes one way, from your wallet to their pocket, hit that like button. Let's make sure they get the message. Ashley stepped in, trying to salvage the wreckage. She was crying now, mascara running down her face. "Diana, please," she sobbed. "We have debts. We have the Tesla, the loft." "We." We can't pay the rent next month. We were counting on this. We thought, when we saw the news. You thought the cash cow had finally come home, I said. I walked back to the table. I picked up a smaller envelope. I am not a cruel woman, I said. I did not leave you with nothing. Kevin's head snapped up. Hope, pathetic and resilient, flickered in his eyes. You have something for us? He asked. I do. I handed him the second envelope. He grabbed it. He didn't tear it open this time. He handled it like it was a bomb. He slid the paper out. It was a flyer. Hearthstone Hospitality, downtown Chicago. Now hiring. Kevin stared at it. What is this? The downtown location is hiring, I said. They need a dishwasher for the night shift. It pays $15 an hour. It comes with health insurance and a 401k match. Kevin looked at me. His face went purple. A dishwasher? He hissed. I am a CEO. I am a founder. You are unemployed, Kevin, I said. And you are broke. If you want money, you can earn it, just like I did. I have already spoken to the manager, Sarah Jenkins. She runs that property. She knows who you are. She is willing to give you a chance, but she will not cut you any slack. You show up on time. You wear the uniform. You scrub the plates. I looked at Ashley. And they are looking for housekeeping staff on the weekends. It is hard work, Ashley, but it is honest. It pays better than Instagram likes. Kevin crumbled the flyer in his fist. He threw it on the floor. Go to hell, he whispered. Keep your money. I don't need you. I'm going to make it on my own. I'm going to build something bigger than your stupid hotels. And when I do, don't come crawling to me. I won't, I said calmly. I will be too busy reading. I nodded to Mr. Sterling. We are done, Diana, he said. The movers are taking the last of the files to storage. Good. I picked up my purse. I picked up Barnaby's carrier. This condo is listed for sale, I told Kevin. The realtor is coming in an hour to change the locks. I suggest you leave before she gets here. She is very aggressive. I walked to the door. Kevin and Ashley stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by empty boxes and the ruins of their expectations. They looked small. They looked like children who had been told that Santa Claus was not only dead, but had left all the toys to the neighbors. Goodbye, Kevin, I said. Happy networking. I walked down the stairs. Mr. Sterling followed me, carrying my laptop case. We stepped out into the bright Chicago afternoon. The air smelled of exhaust and hot dogs, the smell of the city I loved. My Honda Civic was parked by the hydrant. It looked dusty. It looked humble. Mr. Sterling walked me to the driver's side. You know, Diana, he said, pausing by the door. You could have bought an island. I looked up at the window of the condo. I could see Kevin's silhouette pacing back and forth, waving his arms. He was probably yelling at Ashley. He was probably blaming the world. He was still trapped in the prison of his own ego. I bought something better, Arthur, I said. What's that? I bought the truth, I said. And I bought my exit. I got into the car. The seat was worn, shaped perfectly to my back. I put the key in the ignition. It turned without a protest. I put the car in drive. I pulled away from the curb, merging into the traffic. I didn't have $100 million in my bank account anymore. But as I drove toward the highway, heading west toward Galena and a small cottage with a garden, I felt richer than I ever had in my life. I turned on the radio. I rolled down the windows. I was Diana Price. And for the first time in 40 years, I was off the clock.